Hey, what's up guys? It's Stargirl the Practical Witch and welcome back to my channel. I'm here with another astrological prediction video where I'm going to tell you guys what I think is likely going to happen in the year 2020 based on major astrological transits. Now, this will apply to you no matter what your zodiac sign is, and it's actually a good thing to watch this video because you will be ahead of the trends. You will know how to succeed in 2020. You will know how to succeed professionally, socially, or in any area of your life, because you will be aware of the energies that these planets are going to project down here on Earth, and therefore use these energies to your advantage. Now, I do want to tell you that astrology is a map to the energies of the world. I know a lot of people don't believe in astrology, and I understand why. I get that argument, but what I can tell you is that the planets in space radiate these frequencies. They radiate energy, and these frequencies and energies actually impact us as humans down here on Earth, because it has been proven that humans are impacted by frequencies, by energies. And these planets, these huge, massive planets in space, depending on where they are and what frequency they're letting out, they actually impact our energy levels and the way we feel as humans. These planets are massive frequency projectors. It's kind of like when you listen to a certain frequency and you get creeped out. Like in horror movies, they put frequency music behind a scary scene and you get extra scared. That's what these planets do. They play these frequencies that really impact our behavior. So regardless of whether or not you believe in astrology, if you believe that your body is impacted by energies, this is something that might resonate with you. Now, what I do want to tell you as well is that I'm not really going to go into politics. I'm not going to go into anything like that. What I'm mainly concerned about is how you can expect how the people around you are going to act, what trends are going to be very prominent, where you want to take your business, what's going to be in fashion, how you can succeed in 2020 based on the astrology of what is going on. Now, astrology does not dictate your life. However, it gives you a very good guideline. And if you are to follow that guideline in alignment with the energy, it actually makes you more successful. And a lot of the best witches or occult practitioners know this. Pretty much anybody who has a lot of wealth and power has probably used the cycles of astrology, because that's how much it impacts the masses. So I'm going to make sure that you're able to work with these current energies so you can achieve the success, the attention, the happiness, and the well-being that you deserve. So first of all, we're going to look at the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be in the Earth sign of Capricorn. Now, Jupiter is a really important planet when we want to look at what is going to happen here on Earth, because one, it's a huge planet, and it's also a planet of positivity, which means it brings luck, expansion, growth, spiritual teachers, abundance to us all. So Jupiter is a lucky, good planet that lets out lucky frequencies. Now, because Jupiter is going to be in Capricorn, this means, everybody, that any hard work that you do in 2020 is going to be rewarded, is going to be blessed. So you know how sometimes before you might try to work out over and over and over, but you just can't lose that weight, or you just don't get to the body you want, or you don't build that butt that you want, or you know how sometimes you could be working on a project for hours and nothing ever comes out of it, and it just ends up being an unfinished thing in the corner of your room, a reminder of your failure? Well, when Jupiter is in Capricorn, this is a time when any hard work and dedication you put into anything is going to succeed and is going to reap rewards. This is a time when you start practicing something and you take time to practice it every day, you will become a master at it. This is the time when you decide to implement any kind of routine, and that routine is going to pay off. It's not going to be a failure. But you see, everything has its up and down side, because in 2019, when Jupiter was in Sagittarius, yes, it brought things quickly. Yes, it brought things passionately. Yes, it sped everything up. But the bad thing about Jupiter in Sagittarius is it didn't always reward hard work. So you could be working really hard on something and it could have just amounted in failure because you weren't following your passion. So for everyone who is dedicated and wants to know that their energy is going to result in a good result, 2020 is the year for you. Now, this also means, because Jupiter in astrology also brings soulmate relationships, because in Vedic astrology, Jupiter is representative of a woman's husband, and Jupiter also represents like love and romance as well, or it can bring those things in. So when Jupiter is in Capricorn, guys, this also means that relationships, any romantic relationship that you have, is likely going to be with someone who is either 1, older, 2, extremely educated, or 3, someone you really respect and admire. And in 2020, relationships are going to start off very slow. It's not going to be like 2019, 2018, when Jupiter was in Scorpio and Sagittarius, where everything was really fast and passionate and it moved like really fast, love at first sight. Relationships in 2020 are least likely to be like that, because remember, Capricorn slows down the expansive energy of Jupiter. So you can expect, guys, if you're dating around in 2020, your relationships will likely start off as friendships. Your relationships will move very slow, stably, and practically. These will be relationships that are more of a practical nature, or with people that you feel like can help bring you up in the world. Romantic relationships in 2020 will start to become more for practicality, more because you're looking for compatibility, more because you don't necessarily want passion anymore. You want someone that you can learn from, and you want someone that you can respect, or that can help you out in some aspect, because this is normally the time when you find someone you're actually compatible with, as opposed to finding people where it's just about, you know, the passion and the excitement. Okay, so now that we covered Jupiter, let's go into what Saturn is going to be doing, which is a slower moving planet than Jupiter. Jupiter normally transits a sign every year, but Saturn transits every 3.5 years. If I'm wrong, I'll just add a little correction in the corner of the screen. But Saturn really impacts us in a large way, and looking at what Saturn is doing, what sign it is in, is actually really beneficial if you're someone who wants to own a business, if you're someone who wants to become a musician, if you are a creative type, or you want to succeed in the creative world, the entertainment industry, art, music, or anything. I'm telling you, looking at Saturn and what it's doing is the #1 thing to do, because Saturn actually dictates the trends, and I've been noticing this. It's so crazy. So first of all, Saturn has been in Capricorn from 2017 until early 2020, and we have all felt this universally, because Saturn has been back in its home sign of Capricorn, which is the sign of reputation, career, status, fame, wealth. So when Saturn has been in Capricorn, this impacted us on such a big pop culture level. And I know you guys have noticed this the past 3 years because you don't live under a rock, but since Saturn has been in Capricorn since 2007, the mainstream style, the main way of dressing, what has been cool and trendy has been rich designer label things. I mean, if you look on Instagram, some of the biggest models are famous because they have, you know, all of this nice designer brand clothes, and they have the money to take expensive vacations overseas and post it on Instagram. And when you're scrolling through Instagram and looking at these models, you're thinking, wow, their life is perfect and I want that life. That is very Saturn in Capricorn, because when Saturn is in Capricorn, we strive to be the best. We strive to make other people see us as being really established, as really well off. That's what Saturn in Capricorn times bring, and we have just been in that for the last 3 years. And I know you guys have noticed what I'm talking about with the rise of social media. More people than ever want to be social media stars. This is also seen in the way that if you go on YouTube or if you go on Instagram, all of the influencers look so perfect, like they have everything together, like they're Ken dolls and Barbie dolls, because they purposely make it that way in order to portray the image that their life is perfect and happy, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But that kind of fashion trend, that kind of style is stemming from Saturn being in Capricorn, because it makes everybody very focused on their image. It makes people want to portray themselves as being affluent to other people, and that's why we have that social media crisis where people are getting depressed over social media, because real life cannot portray to the image that they put out to the public. This has also been a time when people are faker than ever. They want to be your friend because of your status, or, you know, all of your self-worth is based on how many followers you have, or how good your Instagram photos look. It's been a really shallow few years where most people have been judged based on, you know, what it is they own, how it is they look, how they portray themselves on social media. The media, the trend on YouTube and in music has just been living lavishly, living richly, and that's what's considered cool. That's what's considered the fashion. And even if we look at the top songs, the top artists that have come out since 2017 till now, all of the biggest songs have been about money. They've been about, you know, being able to spend money on whatever it is you want without having to think about anything. We have that Ariana Grande song, we have Cardi B's whole career. Pretty much every artist out here today talks about money and their status, and that's what's been popular to listen to. Now, don't get me wrong, I know there are exceptions. I know not everyone follows the mainstream way, but what I'm talking about is the main idea or the main theme of what is popular recently the last few years has been being expensive, being famous, being someone that other people admire on social media. It's been all fake, and I don't mean to insult anyone who did it. I played a part in the game, to be honest, too, but if we really look back on the last few years, it has been a shallow time. So since 2017 to early 2020, Saturn has been transitioning away from Capricorn and will finally transition into Aquarius in 2020. Now, the reason why this is such a big deal is because if we look at the past of when this happened last, we can see major shifts in society, pop culture, what we deem to be the beauty standard, and also what we deem to be popular or pleasing. So for instance, Saturn takes 30 years to circle around the astrological chart back to the sign it originated from. So 30 years ago, then Saturn was transitioning from Capricorn into Aquarius from 1988 to 1991. And in those 3 years, we noticed such a shift in pop culture. We noticed such a shift in what was deemed popular, or we noticed a huge shift in consciousness during this time. In 1988, it started like how it did in 2017 with Saturn being in Capricorn, its a home sign and planet. And during this time, what was considered popular music was metal or rock bands that talked about what the rappers nowadays do, which is money, cars, getting as many women as they can, partying, drinking, drugs, and all of that lavish lifestyle Saturn and Capricorn things. Now, by the time Saturn went into Aquarius in 1991, this all shifted and completely got dropped on its head because a movement called grunge rock started to come out, where they made fun of cheesy hair metal. And grunge rock, which came out, talked about deep issues like saving women from rape, saving people in general from rape, which was frequently put under the rug and not talked about, and actually glorified in the music before them. And during 1991, when Saturn transitioned away from Capricorn into Aquarius, this was also the time when Riot Girl and feminism started getting really big again. And this is all very Aquarian things, because when Saturn goes into Aquarius, this makes people very conscious about the world and wanting to change the world. So you have a lot of subcultures, a lot of alternative rebellious groups come out of the woodwork to stand together in a cause. You'll start to notice that mainstream music and mainstream style is all about not trying too hard, whereas in Saturn in Capricorn, that was all a time about trying really hard, trying to put on as much makeup and accessories as possible to make yourself seem rich, well off, and flashy. That's very Saturn in Capricorn, as we can see in 1988 when the fashion was big hair. It was also, you know, wearing stilettos and dresses, and for guys, it was also wearing a lot of decadent makeup and clothes. And in 1988, it was also a time where you had movies like Pretty in Pink, which glamorized yuppies, or the yuppie lifestyle, which means a high-class lifestyle of going to a Ivy League college and also wearing a white collar. In 1988, this was considered the standard of beauty. This was considered what was popular, and the music and culture very much reflected that in 1988. Now, if you notice, from 1988 to 1991, that changed completely with the grunge style becoming the mainstream. It became cool to be toned down and not to care too much about status. It became cool to really care about bigger causes other than yourself and to have real meaning and depth behind what you were doing. So when Saturn transitions away from Capricorn into Aquarius in 2020, guys, you're really going to notice that, you know, anyone who's being fake, anyone who tries to be flashy is not going to be taken serious, is not going to be liked, because when Saturn goes into Aquarius, it doesn't like people who are only after or who are only doing things or being a certain way because they want fame, recognition, success, or status. Saturn in Aquarius does not support that whatsoever. In fact, when Saturn goes into Aquarius in 2020, most people will be very turned off by that. Instead, they're going to embrace people. They're going to embrace artists. They're going to embrace businesses that are ethical, that are conscious and aware. They're also going to embrace people who are authentic and are doing things from their heart, as opposed to just doing things because they want recognition, fame, and success. Now, if we also look back 30 years before even 1988 and 1991, we can go back to 1959 to 1962, where Saturn was once again 30 years prior to the 90s, transitioning out of Capricorn into the sign of Aquarius. Now, if we look at the culture in 1958, it was very similar to how it is now and how it was in the 80s, because in 1958, it was considered the cultural norm. What was popular was to look glamorous, like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley. It was considered glamorous and attractive to have diamonds and to have your hair styled and to dress really classy. It was also considered stylish for you to have that traditional, classic, I'm wealthy, I'm well off look, as you guys can see. But since 1958 to 1962, when Saturn made that shift away from Capricorn into Aquarius, what you can see is a major change in pop culture and consciousness. From 1958 to glamorous movie stars and boy band singers, we moved into 1962, which was all about the hippie movement. It was about protesting against the war. It was about peace, love, rock and roll, man. It was about leaving behind their family or historical traditions and pursuing their own belief systems. That was the time of Woodstock. That was the time of psychedelics, where people wanted to experiment, to open up their third eye and see the other dimensions. It was a stark contrast between the 1958 culture to the 1962 culture, and that is because Saturn is the one that shifted away from that conservative sign of Capricorn into the rebellious sign of Aquarius. So Saturn really does have a huge impact on the world and what is going to be successful, what people are going to want to buy, what people are going to want to consume. And in 2020, we are going to relive the 1962 years. We're going to relive the 1991 years, where grunge, alternative, nonconformity starts to become more accepted, and where being your authentic, bold, crazy self is accepted as opposed to looked down upon. So for all of you guys who feel like you don't fit into society, for all of you who feel like you don't really have a place in the world of Instagram or being a social media influencer, you're going to notice that all of that is going to drift into the background. It is no longer going to be relevant in 2020, and you will notice that what becomes popular, what sells, is deep, meaningful music and art that has a purpose, rhyme, reason, or cause. So in 2020, guys, if you're still trying to do that Capricorn thing where you're trying to portray yourself as having it all together, putting on that mask of being very affluent and well off and rich and my life is better than yours, that's not going to work in 2020, because Saturn is going to enter Aquarius, and this is going to be a time when people are going to start questioning society, questioning the structures, questioning the man. This is going to be a time of pop culture rebellion. This is going to be a time when rebellion is embraced. This is going to be a time when unique underdogs are embraced. So for those of you who feel very off, like you don't fit into this society of lavish clothes, designer bags, designer jewelry, and also the society of Instagram models and influencers, don't worry, because in 2020, that is really going to shift into people starting to admire more, rather people who are fighting for a cause, cause, or people who are doing things for a higher purpose. Because when Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius, that rules group organizations working together to make the world a better place. So for instance, I'm seeing that there could be new groups that emerge that are protesting against a certain way of living. You're going to notice that you see more and more people living an alternative lifestyle or dressing in an alternative way, in a way to rebel against what is expected of us in society. So what I predict in 2020 in regards to pop culture is I really feel like there's going to be a new artist that emerges that completely blows up, that changes the course of what we find fashionable, what we find beautiful, because it's going to be so different than anything we've experienced in the last few years. This person is going to defy every beauty standard, every trend, everything that we thought was what we wanted or what we liked. This person is going to be a unique individual, or maybe it could be a group of people, who knows, but I definitely feel like there's going to be new artists that emerge that completely change mainstream media, mainstream pop culture, mainstream music, and also mainstream fashion, that are completely unique to anything we've experienced in the last few years. Because every time we have this Saturn into Aquarius transit, there is always the trailblazers that come out that change music forever. For instance, in 1991, with Saturn going into Aquarius, you had Nirvana come out of nowhere. You had Soundgarden, all of those grunge bands that changed the culture from 80s party rock into deep, meaningful music. And then in 1962, you went away from doo-wop bands into bands that were psychedelic. The Beatles turned psychedelic. Everything turned into a trippy music scene, and that's what we're really going to see in 2020 with Saturn going into Aquarius, is a lot crazier of music that defies the man and defies the government and all of that stuff. I said I wasn't going to talk about politics in this prediction because I really don't want to get involved in that, but you are going to see more rebellion against the man, more rebellion against the establishment. And I'm also seeing as well, guys, like the harder you try in 2020, the more it's going to bite you in the butt in any setting. Because what I'm seeing, guys, like especially if you're a business owner or if you are a model or if you're a creative of any type, the more you try to stay in that Capricornian feeling of trying to seem perfect or putting on a mask so you look perfect or trying to be what you think is glamorous and all of that stuff, it's not going to really work out, guys. I'm just being honest with you. It's going to be taken very poorly. So my advice to you is to be as authentic as possible, to do things out of the trueness of your heart rather than a want to be recognized or to gain popularity. And that's how you're going to find success. And if you're a business owner or you're doing art and music, make sure there's a real meaning behind what you're doing. Don't just put out nonsense that means nothing. It's not going to sell well. No one is going to be into it. And also, if it's ethically made, it's probably going to work out, because normally during these times, people go crazy over alternative medicine, ethically made things, and also conspiracy theories. So be prepared for this. It's going to be a rock and roll time. It's going to be a crazy, like, psychedelic time, kind of like how it was in the 60s and 1991. So that's what I really see in 2020 in regards to predictions. I really hope you enjoyed this. I really hope this helps you out. I really hope it helped like awaken, you know, some of the cycles of astrology. And now you're better prepared to navigate through this new era, this new decade. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching my channel. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you later.